Hey everybody, welcome back. Elite Series is headed down to Wheeler Lake. We're a little ways out here. We got a nice little break between Lake Murray and that Wheeler event. But I've got my picks done, so I'm going to get them out. I know I always tried in the past to get those out way early. I've struggled this year, but I've got this one done. So let's take a look at it. As always, if you haven't followed along, when I pick this early, obviously a lot can change. Somebody might have a baby coming or something crazy like that, like we've seen before. So always check down in the comments as we're getting closer to tournament time. See if there's any updates. I will update down there if anything notable breaks. With that said, let's jump in and pick Wheeler Lake in bucket A. Kind of a crazy bucket to me. This is one bucket if I was ever going to pick 3 top 10s specifically, this is the one I would do it, I think. Patrick Walters, Trey McKinney, Jordan Lee. Could see any of those guys winning. Would not surprise me one bit if all 3 went top 10. A couple other guys in this bucket, really good picks. Obviously, there's a strong bucket A as always. Brandon Lester's in this one. He's had some good history here. 2016, he was 16th on the Elite Series here. JT Tompkins is in this one. Obviously, he's fishing really strong. He also fished the 2023 Open here and was 11th, so he's got some history on this one. Wesley Gore's in this one. He actually struggled here at that Open. I'm not sure the story on that. I did not look into it. He was 95th. Almost has to be some backstory there, but I never did check into that. Either one of the Johnston brothers could do well here. Chris was 8th in the Forest Wood Cup here back in 2016. So he's got some history here. But like I said, those 3 guys, Walters, McKinney, and Lee, I think any one of them could win. Lee obviously being a local. McKinney and Walters. Walters kind of stubbed his toe in Florida there, and obviously I had him picked for both events. Otherwise, I think he'd really give McKinney a run for his money, and obviously McKinney is out in front leading the race for Angler of the Year right now. So ultimately, he's going to be my pick. He was 7th here at the 2023 Open, so he's got some recent history here. Fishing as well as anybody, obviously, and it's hard to pick against him right now. I don't know what that sentence was, but hard to pick against him right now. Predictor agrees with me on this one. They've got Jordan Lee, and your second place pick in this was 60.05, and Trey McKinney as your leader, 62.4. Into bucket B. Let's see here. Brandon Polinick's in this one. He did well at the 2023 Open here. He was 2nd. He did struggle the last 2 times the elites were here, at least for his standards, 47th and a 32nd. So not great, but he's a good option overall. Lee Livesey's in this one. Shane LeHue, both guys that have some history here. Robert Gee fished that Open and was 20th, so a decent finish. Ultimately, for me, one of 2 anglers in this one. John Cox, Will Davis Jr. I actually had to click over to see which one I picked because it was that tight for me in this one. Will Davis Jr., obviously, he's a local Alabama guy, very familiar with the water. I'm actually, as I look at it here, kind of second-guessing myself because I did take John Cox. Primarily the deciding factor for me, he won the Forest Wood Cup here in 2016. Hard to pick away from an angler that has a win of that caliber on this lake. However, he has not been fishing as well this year. Kind of up and down. He's been fishing better lately, although how much of that was aided by that swing through Florida in his home waters. We'll see if he can keep that going. But John Cox is my pick in this one, at least as of now, with a strong consideration for Will Davis Jr. On the predictor side, predictor actually likes Shane LeHue, 2nd on this one, 43.2. And predictor will take John Cox, 43.85. That Forest Wood Cup win, a big part of that one, obviously. Bucket C. This was an interesting bucket for me. So on my sheets that I keep looking at here, I go through and highlight. And I do 2 colors of highlights. And orange highlights are guys that have some strong qualities but are kind of a mixed bag for the tournament. Maybe they have some history, but they're not fishing really well, or vice versa, or whatever. And then yellow guys are guys where it's kind of like everything comes together. The real slam dunk picks, usually my top 2, 3, even sometimes 4 guys in a bucket end up being coated yellow. I do not have a single yellow one in this bucket. So obviously don't feel real strong about it. We do have some guys with history here. Stephen Kennedy, Greg Hackney were both top 10 when the Elite Series visited here in 2016. However, in true Stephen Kennedy form, the previous Elite Series here in 2012, he was 85th. All over the map there. Hackney in that 2012 one was 65th, so he didn't do well either. Hackney fished the 2023 Open here and was 25th. So, those guys are all over the place. We got Kyle Welcher here, strong pick, but he's had a little more up and down season. He was probably the guy I thought about most other than who I picked here. Ultimately, I went with Kiyoya Fujita. He was having a really, really strong year, and then we did that Florida swing, South Carolina, and I would say stubbed his toe, but that doesn't even quite begin to describe. I think he was, 83rd, 103rd, and 65th in those three, something like that. So really, really struggled on that swing, took himself out of contention for AOY, but in the midst of all that, in between the Florida tournaments and the Lake Murray tournament, he headed down to Logan Martin Lake, south of Wheeler, and took third in an Open there. So obviously he still got it a little bit, just struggling to get right himself on the Elite Series. I look for him to do it here. Bucket C, I'm comfortable with a little bit of a gamble, and I think he's as safe of a gamble as you can pick. So Kiyoya Fujita is my pick in Bucket C. On the predictor side, Greg Hackney, second, 29.8. Pretty low numbers. You can tell the predictor is not overly high on this bucket either. And then Kyle Welcher is the predictor's pick. Good pick. That's another one I might be second-guessing myself as we get closer to tournament time. But 34.05 for the Welcher score on predictor. Into bucket D. A little bit stronger one. Still some up and down guys. Todd Auten was third in the Forest Wood Cup here back in 2016, so he's got a nice one. Cobb was ninth in that Forest Wood Cup, and obviously he's coming off a Murray tournament. Did decent, maybe not as well as I wanted him to do. Let's see, we've got Matt Herron in the last two Elite events, was 15th and 14th here, so a couple nice finishes there. That was back in 2016 and 2012, so a little while back. And Joseph Webster is in this one as well, 10th in that Forest Wood Cup. And then finally Clark Wendlandt, another strong option here, 5th in the 2023 Open, and also fished that Forest Wood Cup, although he had a 37th place, so not a great finish. Ultimately for me, this was another bucket. This tournament was really kind of tough for me, but really came down to two guys, and I had a real trouble differentiating between them. David Gaston and Kenta Kimura. Kenta Kimura, style-wise, this should set up well for him. He did finish that 2023 Open in 15th place, so a decent finish fairly recently. Ultimately, though, I went David Gaston. Local guy, familiar with the waters, got some good finishes in local tournaments in this area. I don't know. It's more of a local pick than anything in Bucket D. There's a couple other guys here that have stronger historical finishes in big tournaments, but Gaston's going to know Wheeler Lake about as well as anyone, and I think he'll be able to put together a bag to finish strong in Bucket D. Into Bucket E. This is one I'm not sure how I feel about. I've taken this chance before, and it didn't work out, but I'm surprisingly confident, so we'll see what happens here. A few guys of note: Scott Canterbury finished the Forest Wood Cup in 21st place here. Scott Martin also fished that Forest Wood Cup and finished 12th. Gerald Swindle was 10th at the 2016 Elite Series here and 34th the one before that in 2012, so he's got a couple decent finishes. Ultimately for me, swinging for the fences, John Cruz, and I say I feel a little more confident about that maybe than I should. A couple reasons. Number one, he was third here in 2016, 10th in 2012. One of, I wouldn't say very few, but one of only a handful of anglers that did well at both of those because they were very different conditions, and he was able to solve Wheeler Lake for both of those. On top of that, he had a nice bounce back. I was really disappointed with how he did at the St. Johns River, obviously, with having him picked. But he had a really nice bounce back at Murray, had a nice finish there, 17th, I want to say. So maybe back on track a little bit. The last couple of years, and really for a lot of his career, he's kind of been an up and down guy. So if he can get a little momentum going, feel good about himself, and have some history here to build on, really good pick in Bucket E. So that's who I'm going with, John Cruz. On the predictor side, Scott Canterbury is your second place angler in the predictor with a 46.9, and predictor will also go John Cruz, 47.2 points. So agrees with me there. And so I guess that'll do it. A couple of those I really struggled with, but I'm halfway confident in my team. I'm sitting 98.2%, 564th place right now. So just a few tournaments left. This one and the next one, is the next one Smith Lake? I'm a little bit concerned about just because I use historical data a lot and we don't have a ton, but we're going to get through those. Once again, my team for Wheeler Lake: McKinney, Cox, Fujita, Gaston, and Cruz. Good luck, everybody. Once again, I'm putting this one out so early that make sure you check the comments below. If there's any last-minute updates, I'll post them there. Otherwise, we will see you on the next one. Good luck and happy fishing.